You ready for the final afternoon? I tell you what, I'm going to miss you. I am. Thanks for the big welcome, and thanks for treating me so well this weekend, for the love you poured out to me. I love you so much in return. I want you to know I can't do it without you. We as Americans got to join together, and we've all got to stand, and the time to stand is right now. In fact, I wish it was 3 years sooner, but all in God's time, I guess. But anyway, I got a very good friend, and he's a state national. He's out of New York, the state of New York. And I think he is there's always one. I think he's one of the brightest men in the English language that I've ever met. He's got a degree from Oxford, and when he studies and he works and he prepares documents and he works the English language, he pulls up on his computer screen and he looks every word in English up, not only in English, but in Latin and Hebrew, in order to get the true meaning of the words. Our English language has been, this is how they've enslaved us, really. They've changed it, redefined it, they've altered it, they've slanged it, they've euphanized it. They keep our black brothers and sisters ignorant in our inner cities by teaching them eubonics, by the own use of the language. They use so much slang in different parts of the country, in our black neighborhoods, but also in the South, with many different places. California, oh my gosh, the slang. You go down there, I can't hardly understand the youth when they speak anymore. They use words that they say mean one thing, that when I was growing up, it sure didn't mean that, okay? And all as that does is oppress you. It makes it so they can attack you. I posted a video at lunchtime on the David Straight chat channel, which we're going to also repost it. I want my admins to see it first, and then repost it on the main channel. Just talking about the English language and meanings. One of the things we all need to study is those meanings, those definitions. Look things up. Look things up in multiple locations. Things that mean something in a normal dictionary like Wikipedia or Webster's does not necessarily mean the same thing in a Bovier's or Black's Law. Okay? This is why these guys who watch YouTube say, David Straight didn't quote that right, didn't say that right, didn't use, because they don't know where the freak I looked it up. See? And it drives me crazy. They just don't. It doesn't make it wrong. Sometimes it doesn't make it right either. All we can do is do our best. That's it. We're imperfect at best. But if we strive for perfection, that's what matters, okay? So more words, the definition of words. I'm always trying to come up with more and more words that mean something different than what we necessarily think. So I had somebody a little while back talk about the Constitution. The Constitution, and what does the Constitution mean? What does the word Constitution mean? And he gave me a definition. And I shook my head, no, that ain't it. So I went out and I did a whole bunch of research, went clear back in history, found all kinds of different little meanings of the word Constitution. And I finally came up by putting some things together with what I think is the perfect definition. And it says, the word Constitution is a security with sureties created by constitutors. It's exactly what it means. Exactly what it means. The constitutors were the 13 states, the original colonies of the first Constitution. Its people represented those states, those colonies. They were the constitutors. And they created our security with surety. You agree with that? Here's a guy that's pretty bright in the law, and he agrees with it 150%, he just said. One of the problems in our English languages is, and I said languages, did you hear me? There's a reason for that too, is homograph. Homograph. You know what that is? Words with the same spelling but different meanings, such as an orange. It can mean a color or it can mean a fruit, depending on how the context is being used. Homograph, believe it or not, is actually in the law. When you read the preface of some law books, it talks about the homograph of the English language. And when I first read one of those prefaces and I saw the word homograph, I had to look it up. I had no clue what that word meant. So it's words with the same spelling but different meanings. A statute is the rules of an organization that have the effect of law only with your consent. That is a definition of a statute. That came from an old Oxford dictionary of the English language from about the 1400s. State, the definition of a state includes territories and districts. And you can find that in the Supreme Court of the United States Rules 47.2. I know, how many people read that crap? A corporate soul. That's a word that came up in a conversation I was having, so we looked it up. The legal entity consisting of a single incorporated office occupied by a single natural person, a real man, who is all caps name bonded to himself. Do you know what that means? A real man who is all caps name bonded to himself. That means he's claimed the trust. He claimed the ownership and bound it to himself. Very interesting. Registration. Do you know what the definition of registration is? The complete process of preparing to sell a newly issued security to the public. Took that right out of banking law. Oh yeah, happy to. Registration, the complete process of preparing to sell a newly issued security to the public. You go register your vehicle, it creates a $10,000 bond for the DMV and they sell it to the public. You go get a driver's license, it created a $10,000 bond for the DMV. The complete process of preparing to sell a newly issued security to the public. Appearance. What does the word appearance mean? The formal proceeding by which a defendant submits himself to the jurisdiction of the court. That's called general appearance. Appearance. A defendant, the definition of defendant is one who defends a trust. Everything is a trust matter. The Bible is 2 trust indentures. Our nation was founded on the public charitable trust. Our government officers and agents and employees are trustees. The people are its beneficiaries. It all works out the full faith and credit of the chattel. See, the people's birth bond. Everything is a trust matter before the court. Almost every phone call I've been getting from Bonnie, I've been drumming trust into her head and tell her to quit arguing the facts. The facts don't matter. What's happening to her, the facts of the case don't really matter much. If she overcomes it with trust, she'll be out of there. If she argues the facts, she could win or lose. If she argues it with trust, she'll be out. You win every time. For all those fighting cases where they're coming after you and you're the defendant, that's a very important lesson for you to learn right now. Okay, might save your life or at least some years. A resolution. A resolution is a formal expression of opinion or intention made after voting, usually by a formal legislative organization. Does Congress make law? No. The answer is no. Congress does not make law. They make rules, acts, and statutes for territories. That's right out of federal code. To authenticate is the act of giving authority to a record so as to render it legally admissible as evidence. An apostille is the United States of America jurisdiction requires authentication. The United States Inc. jurisdiction requires an apostille. Think about that. You cannot be charged in one jurisdiction and defend in another. I had an attorney tell me that. He says, you cannot be charged in one jurisdiction and defend in another. And I'll tell you how stupid that sounds to me when I hear that. See, I know God gave man all three jurisdictions and commanded him to take dominion over it, and he told us which order they were in. And if they're down here in the water, swimming with the sharks, and I'm walking on the land, can they eat me? No. And who is freer than an eagle? Nobody. So the jurisdiction of the air is the highest form of law. The air is above the land, which is above the water. Everything becomes a trust matter before the court when you stand firmly upon your rights. When you stand firmly upon your rights. If you don't stand as a belligerent claimant in person, you lose all your rights. The word belligerent doesn't mean what you think it means. Most people think the word belligerent means to be rude, to be obnoxious, to get in somebody's face and just be a pain in the ass. The word belligerent means to stand firm. Okay? When you read the law and you read about sentencing, after you've been tried, you get sentenced. When you go to your sentencing is your last ditch effort, opportunity to speak and get rid of your sentence. And the only way you can speak is as a belligerent claimant in person. That means, what did I just say the word belligerent was? To stand firm. What's a claimant? Someone who makes a claim, and you have to declare your innocence. To stand as a belligerent claimant in person is to declare your innocence, and in admiralty, you have to be the person at that point, representing your vessel. Do you know what government cannot do? They can regulate commerce, but they can't interfere in it. And here's something about commerce most people don't know. When you're a person in admiralty, which is what they want you to be, to try you and convict you, but when you understand how to take dominion of it and truly be that person and claim the vessel as yours, your ownership, well, then you can stand as that person, as a belligerent claimant, and claim that that vessel is in the business of commerce and they are interfering in commerce, which they're not allowed to do. And Title 15 of the United States Code is your Lord and Savior right there. If I sign a contract to fly a plane to another state and fly a couple people with me, Government technically can't interfere in that private contract. The only way they can is when I register the plane, register with the FAA, get my pilot's license, and register my corporation as an LLC, and all I'm doing by doing all that is jumping into commerce. And I'm removing my rights as a private business, which we have a right to perform a private business under the Constitution. But it's my choice. Did I perform in my private business? And airplanes, they've regulated that so long, so hard, so much, it's almost impossible now to make it a private business. Or is it? What if you own the MCO to the plane? What if you send in an affidavit to put that plane in the private and notice the FAA and everybody else? I've got a pilot that you should probably meet. He's an American state national, and he's fought the FAA over this, and he has won. He put his corporation into a PMA. Now the problem is you're hangers and you're teaching others. Now you're in trouble. But if you were just a pilot with your own private plane, flying a couple of passengers for free or donation, don't tell them how much it costs. Say, this is what our expenses is. Anything you want to donate above that amount would be great. And people are generous if they like your service. Yes, they will. And see, that's because he knows he's a darn good pilot, right? So, all the ways they've taught us to go into business now through all the business schools, colleges, universities, has been indoctrination, so that we follow the lead of the cabal instead of the lead of man and God. And they've made it, some industries, extremely difficult for that. There are so many industries that are so heavily regulated. But there's industries that's not. What about your local flower shop? The local auto mechanic? All these kind of people in those types of industries can put their business in a PMA and not have any problems. I put coffee shops in PMAs, homeschool businesses in PMAs, all kinds of restaurants in PMAs, lots of chiropractors and a whole lot of holistic doctors and herbalists, and put them into PMAs. And they're all operating in the private under membership. Coffee shop like Cavista Coffee in Bend, Oregon, they're busy from the minute they open their door in the morning to the minute they open their door at night, and it's a big coffee shop. It's probably 1/4 the size of this room, holds 100, 150 people, and they're swamped all the time because they were the only PMA coffee shop in town when COVID hit, and everybody could walk in without a mask. And on the front door, it said, for members only. All are welcome to be a member. Come on in. And what they did is they offered a membership benefit. And right below the cash register was their member benefits list. Buy 10 coffees, get one free. Buy 5 muffins, get one free. Blah, 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 blah. And they just listed their membership benefits. 50 cents for every cup of coffee goes to your membership. Now they're paying the membership due, which you have to do in a PMA of some kind. See? That's really the wrong word for me to use. It's not. Yeah. There's owner members, there's worker members, and there's customer members. Usually a PMA requires three things. One is the main PMA agreement on how you're going to operate, who the owners are, and so on and so forth. And then one's for the employees, isn't it? Literally like that's the wrong word to use too. They're not employees. They're worker members. I'm going to tell you a little story. Right out of high school, I started an advertising agency in 1981. Thought that'd be cool. I actually did really well, and in a whole entire year, after 1 year, we were cash flowing about 60 grand a month, and we were doing quite well. I had a fairly unique idea, and then I came up with two others. We added them all together, and we started doing awesome. And the next year, I turned it over to one of my employees to run and manage for me. And he did. And he did a good job. And in December of 1988, I sold that business. But one of the things we did with that advertising agency, where was I going with this? Sorry. I hear an airplane and I just want to go fly. I've always liked to fly. I've always liked planes. Anyway, I had this advertising agency, and we helped and taught a lot of businesses while we were doing this on how to improve their business and how to make them money. And I'd walk in and I'd make bets with the owners of the businesses. Hey, if I can improve your business 30% this next month, how much would you pay me if I run one ad and improve your business 30%? How much would you pay me? Would you pay me 10% of your overall business for the month? You walk away 20% higher, right? Give me a third. So I would sell an ad. To make a living. A man is worthy of his hire. That's a maximum law. When you help others with your heart and honest intent, and you help others, you get paid very, very well. What business has taught us to do in these schools is to have a job and have employees who have jobs, just enough income paid to them to keep them there, and not enough for them to survive and make it. They barely make it. and then the owner makes a good living. And I started proposing something totally different. We help people. People are willing to pay. You make money. Finding niches that improve their lives. Not finding necessary products that they want, but finding products they truly need, like these necklaces and bracelets, and what they do for you. And boy, are they stackable. Don't wear 4 or 5 of them too long in a day, because you won't sleep for 30 hours. Okay, they give you a tremendous amount of energy, all right? I got to take them off at night to sleep. So, but all the products we bring, from land patents to PMAs to MCOs to health to 7K metals to the Wagners back there with the ability for people, well, not everybody can run out and buy a $300,000 home. But by gosh, they might be able to come up with $1,000 to own a piece of land, patented property that they can attach to and call themselves king. See, there was no limits put on us. It didn't say, they can't make a statute that say, no, you have to own 100 acres. What are they going to say? Come back and say, no, you got to own 500? You got to own 1,000? No, there's no limits put on us by God. You got 9 square feet, that's all you need. If you got 1 square foot, that's all you need. When I first met Bonnie, I asked her, we hadn't even dated or anything. I mean, didn't even know that that's what we were going to do in the future. I asked her if I could buy a square foot of her land in Texas. And the reason I did is because Texas never ceded their land back to the United States, and I wanted 1 square foot that I could deed and claim the land patent to secure myself to the land of Texas. Not knowing I'd own plenty of it when I get there, but you know, these things are important. I can't stress how important they are, or I wouldn't have any vendors here that weren't. But you are the same way. Your gift, man, you could be helping people with law cases like crazy. I help people that can't pay a thing all the time. I'll probably do 5 or 10 people I'll help each month that never pay me a dime. And then I have those that give me $100. I have those that give me 5, 1,000, drop 5,000 in an envelope on my desk, and I have those that pay me a lot more. People are generous if you just help. Don't think about the money, ever. If you're always chasing a dollar, you'll never have any. And it doesn't matter if you're a millionaire. I can remember when I was young and dumb, and I'd made $1 million a year plus. I remember my first year I made $1 million. And I was just as broke as when I made 50,000. The more I made, the more I spent. And my standard of living didn't really change much. But when you quit chasing the dollar, you wake up every morning, you get on your knees, you pray to God, and you say, who do I help today? And you just go help them. Then generosity and gifts from God flow into your pocket when you need them, and your pockets fill up. And you don't even think about it. And so many people walk up to me and hand me a wad of cash, and they say, here, thank you very much for helping me, I really appreciate it. And I say, thank you for that gift, and I go like that, and I don't even count it. Don't even count it. It's just there when I need it. Whether it's to go to dinner, put gas in the car, or whatever, there it is. I don't even know how much I have in my safe. I'd have to go count it to know. You understand the difference in the mindset? That changes. You got to be kidding me. I can't even believe my ringer's on. There's always one. Actually, it's probably Bonnie. Yes, no, I'm not going to answer it. No, it's okay. Really. Talked to her 4 times today already. She'll call back. It's usually when she's got really something exciting to tell me. And I don't know where she comes up with this crap sitting in a square box. But she's always, this is the beauty of Bonnie. When I fell in love with Bonnie, I fell in love with her BBBBBs. Her big, blonde, beautiful brain. That's part of it. No, but seriously, this woman's strength and endurance and her beauty is incredible. Her attitude, her constitution. She's sitting in that box for 19 days. Most people would be pretty damn depressed about now. Not eating, not doing anything. I call her, she's like as happy as a clam. Everything's great, everything's wonderful. She's been reading the Bible, she's been having time to herself that she doesn't ordinarily have. And she's like, she was at Disneyland, you know? No, I'm kidding. But they keep it 60 degrees in there. The pad that she sleeps on is 4.5 feet long. It's about this wide, and you sit on it, and it's nothing. With one little thin wool blanket. I put $400 in commissary for her the day after she got in. It was 15 days before she got to even use it. And the first thing she did was bought some long underwear to keep herself warm at night. Tops and bottoms. Important things, right? Little packages of tuna, she splits it in half. They're only 4-ounce packages. So she eats 2 ounces per meal. She's lost 1 pound a day. She's going to come out looking hot. Not that she didn't before. All right. A man is no less a slave if he is allowed to choose a new slave master every 4 years. That came up in conversation. I had to write it down and say it. A man is no less a slave if he's allowed to choose a new slave master every 4 years. That's why I literally told President Trump, I don't care if you're president in 2024. What? You're like one of my biggest supporters. What's going on? I says, president of what? Are you going to be the president of the United States of America, which I know you already are, and you're the commander-in-chief of the military? Or are you going to run for that White House Office Inc. bullshit? I said, claim what you got. Right now, stop waiting, stop screwing around. Because I told him we're going to vote with our feet. We're sure as hell not going to vote for a new president of the White House Office, Inc. Let's just dissolve that crap. Well, that man I was talking to you about, who has a degree from Oxford University and looks up every word, he wrote the most beautiful writ of quo warranto with a writ of mandamus attached that I have ever seen in my life, and it's a document that I've got in that case right over there, and he's recorded it in the county in his name, and that document's going to be used to dissolve every corporation in America. And I know that right here. I know that with all my heart and all my soul. And if enough of us sign on to that document, they're going to have to take it seriously. And as soon as he's ready, that's going to the Supreme Court. And here's another thing I want to talk to you all about. I'll tell you one of the reasons we have not succeeded very well as a people in the last 150 years that I've discovered. First of all, when the Supreme Court of the United States was formed, we had about 7 million people in the United States. 7 million. And we had 9 Supreme Court justices. Now there's 335 million, and we have 9 Supreme Court justices. So your odds of getting something heard sure drop down to almost nothing. It's 1% usually. 1% chance of getting something heard at the Supreme Court. Until a fairly recent discovery that every state is assigned a Supreme Court justice. Whose is your state? See, Missouri's is Kavanaugh, Texas's is Alito, and you have the opportunity to communicate directly to his chambers. Do your research. Find out who your Supreme Court justice is. Not the whole Supreme Court of the United States, but just yours and from your state. And you write your writs and write them well. Don't waste their time. And each Supreme Court justice has lots of people that work for him that review everything that comes in. And if you write your writ well, they'll hand it to him when they review it. And if you write it right, he will make a decision on that right there and then. And it's an opportunity for remedy that we have not known before. Not us lowly little people. We didn't know this until fairly recently. So find out, whatever state you're in, who is your Supreme Court justice. See how fast he found this? Now what state? Michigan is David Viviano. I love that guy. That's how long it took for him to research that. See the power of the people? This is what Bobby and I are just starting to enjoy very, very much. We got so many great American State Nationals, about 45,000 on each of our Telegram channels. We just say, hey guys, look this up. And all of a sudden, there's our answer. Oh, you know how sweet that is for me? I can remember before the internet where I had to read stacks of books. I had to put in so much time, so much effort, and burn up my eyes until they bled, and then close them for a minute, rub them real hard, and then open my eyes and read again. And you guys have the ability to ask questions and have your questions answered. And it's amazing how many comments I see, because if you don't have it done in 15 seconds, your question answered, then you're complaining about it. Drives me crazy. Public versus private. Anything registered in the public domain, your car, your house, your all caps name, anything created by Congress is statutory jurisdiction. But under Article 3 of the Constitution, under the judiciary, it's a private jurisdiction. Demand your Article 3 courts. Those are equity courts. Demand them. But boy, you better know the language. She got to read my 3 pages of notes of what I would say when I made these notes for myself, so that when I go into the courtroom with Bonnie, they help me with the guidelines so I don't forget anything. And she read them. What do you think? There's a ton of research in that 3 pages, a ton. And the language is different than what you're used to. Right, yeah, you're gonna have to look it all up. Yeah, the language is different. It's a different language in a different jurisdiction. Okay. All court cases are commercial warfare under international commercial law. All parties to a cause must appear by your nom de guerre. Do you know what that is? Your war name. Your vessel's not just a vessel for hauling cargo, guys. It's your warship. We operate in a system of admiralty, which is piracy. Our police officers are inland pirates in their cruise ships, their cruisers. Man, you got to get this whole concept burned into your brain. And when you do, then things become clearer, don't they? Because an alien enemy cannot maintain an action during the war in his own flesh and blood name. War is a gigantic commercial transaction. All war is commerce, and all commerce is war. Do you know where I got that? Right out of the UCMJ, the Uniform Code of Military Justice. Ronald Reagan took a liking to me years ago because I brought a commanding officer up on charges and spent some time in Washington, D.C., and I got a reputation as the guy that could read and knew shit. Like everybody doesn't do that. And one of the things I did is I just read the whole USCMJ and I memorized it. Back then I could do that before 2013, when I was younger. And then all these JAG attorneys would come to me and say, David, where do I find this? What is it? What's it mean? You're the dang attorney. I'd look at him real funny. You're the darn attorney. You're the one that's supposed to know this. You've been doing it how many years? I've been here 3 months. I'd give him a hard time. I said, what are you doing? Spending your time playing baseball? Tom Cruise, right? A few good men, right? So anyway, I used to read a whole lot. One day I was sitting in a restaurant not too far from the White House in Washington, D.C. at a table, and I had a whole bunch of books piled up, a little tiny cheap computer that wouldn't hardly, our phones are like 800,000 times more powerful than that was back then. But I could take a few notes on it, 64K. And I'm sitting there at this table, cup of coffee, snack, and all of a sudden I'm in this restaurant, and it's fairly late in the evening, and the Secret Service comes in the door, and they clean out the house, and not one person came over to talk to me, and I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, am I gonna get arrested? Am I in trouble? I mean, every bad thought went through my head. All these scenarios just through my head. And I'm just sitting there and I'm looking around, and they're just like all stoic. And Ronald Reagan walks in the door. And he walks right over my table and he says, "Kid, what are you reading?" I said, "Well, books." I had like 18 of them sitting there. I said, "I'm reading books." He goes, "Yeah, I know. You got a pretty good reputation around here of being able to learn stuff fast. We need guys like you." I said, "I'm going home in 2 weeks, and I'm looking forward to it." He goes, "That's okay. You go ahead and go home, and in 3 weeks or so after you're there, I'm going to send a guy for you, and he's going to run you through a whole bunch of tests. And he's going to decide, along with you, if you'll accept it, where you should best serve. Would you serve the President of the United States?" Well, what the hell am I going to say? No. I said, "Okay, but I'm really looking forward to starting a new business, living my life. I'm married and I have kids now. I had 2 at the time, and I'm raising my family." I go home, and 3 weeks later, right on the dot, guy shows up at the door, and he puts me through all these different tests, a whole bunch of them, more than 40 books of tests he brought, whole suitcase full of things about the size of the traveling by right manual that Tony's selling. Just these notebooks like that. Put me through one test after another. And I made a decision during that 3 weeks, I didn't want to work for government. And so I told this guy that. I says, "I don't want to work for government. I don't want a government paycheck. I don't want anything to do with government." He says, "Don't worry. What we have planned for you ain't government." And all they did is private contract work. And they sent me for trainings all the time, training one thing after another. And then it was just like that. You'd be home, you'd be doing your own thing, and you'd get a phone call, or they'd send you a little box in the mail, give you something to learn and something to study, and you got to choose if you wanted to do the work. And I thought, oh, this is pretty cool. You know what, it turned really cool? When I'd leave and I'd go do the work they asked me to do, thinking I was going to probably be doing it for free. They didn't even tell me how much they were going to pay me. But they paid me very well. And then I thought it was really cool. See? But the joy I got out of it was so much more. And the things I got to learn, if I wouldn't have done that, if I wouldn't have went through that, I wouldn't be here. The things that I did, the ability that I got, it put me in such a unique position. Such a unique position. To put together information and to be part of something that the average person will never get to see, ever get to learn. And then after doing that for a little while, the thoughts that were computing in my brain is, well, now I know some things that are going on. What about my friends and family and my neighbors? How are they ever going to know this stuff? The news isn't going to tell them. They're not going to see it on TV. How are they ever going to know? And then in the meantime, in my own personal life, a whole bunch of things went wrong. My first wife had left me. The CPS came around, took my kids. I had to fight for them in court. I got them back right away. I mentored. I was running a business. And I thought to myself, look at all the crap I've accomplished at a very young age. And I was a little cockier then. Humility is a good thing. And if you don't have it, God will teach it to you. Just have a big ego and see what happens in your life. Okay? God will hammer it down. Anyway, that reminds me of Ben Barlow. Yeah. Anyway, you didn't hear that back in the back, did you? Good. So, I'm throwing myself off today. This is wrong. End of the third day and I'm throwing myself off. I have a reason for telling you what I'm telling you. What was it? Yeah, you guys are a big help. Okay. The National Association of Banking. I'm going to change the subject on you. We had some fun a while back. The National Association of Banking runs their telephone system off an AI program, like Alexa. But it's an AI program. There was a funny Alexa one the other day too, and I can't even remember what it was. But the NAB, the National Association of Banking, on their virtual assistant, you go online, pretty soon a little AI things, how can we help you? What questions can we answer for you, or something like that. And it says, virtual assistant, hi there, I'm NAB's secure virtual assistant. I can answer your banking questions or guide you to the right person. How can I help you? And this man says, my bank account has been drained of funds and I don't understand why. The virtual assistant says, we can only discuss details of the decedent's accounts with the legally authorized representatives of their estate. We'll work with the named executors where there's a will, or the administrator or immediate next of kin where there isn't a will. We can't release any funds until the estate is finalized. Although you may be able to access funds to cover the deceased funeral costs, funds will be released via EFT, electronic funds transfer, per the authorized representative's instructions. It was him asking. He's alive. You could pinch him and he'd squeal. And he screenshotted that and sent it over to me. I thought it was, well, very telling. How many people read between the lines? How many people read things carefully enough where they pick out the specific words? Hardly any, very few. It's a very low percentage of our population, I can tell you that. This man had just recently double authenticated his birth certificate. When you double authenticate your birth certificate, it's usually to claim your minor estate, except none of us know that. We were never taught that that was the reason we do it. I think one of the reasons we started to as a group of Americans is because some guy over in Australia about 25 years ago was heavily teaching the benefits of double authenticating your birth certificate. And what he was teaching us from that, and I was one of his students kind of, he was teaching us that it would help you in court if you did it. And it had worked for him 3 times in court. 3 times he used his double authenticated birth certificate, and he walked in and he'd allowed them to take pictures of it, and they took it and they paid off his charges. And then he took it back and took it home. That is not the right way to do it, by the way. As soon as you do that, he gets stopped all the time. Because they just saw an ATM that just spits out money out of somebody else's account. If you could walk up to the ATM and just show your cute little face in the camera and it spits out money out of someone else's account, how many times would you walk up to the ATM? No, you wouldn't. You're an honest man. Shut up. I got him there, didn't I? All right. Now, that's what that double authenticated birth certificate is. I'm telling you several times this weekend, because a lot of us have done it. Be careful with that document. They have put words in the computer system, in the databases, and they know you have it. Be careful with it. Now, if you lock it away in the safe and they attack you once or twice and you don't use it, they might back off a little because they're not making any money from the ATM. Be careful, though, because they might attack you hard enough and you still don't know that you go to jail. That's a risk you're going to run. That's, I believe, is what they've been doing to Bonnie. Okay. Right? Right. Exactly. That's a smart thing to do. Administrators Procedures Act, Section 6. Section 6 under appearance. And it has to do with persons compelled to appear before an agency or representative thereof. Nothing herein shall be construed either to grant or to deny to any person who is not a lawyer the right to appear for or represent others before any agency or in any agency proceeding. Read it again. Nothing herein shall be construed either to grant or to deny to any person who is not a lawyer the right to appear for or represent others before any agency or any agency proceeding. You don't have to have a lawyer in court. You can have any counsel of your choosing. You can contract with someone smarter than you to go represent you if they will accept. And you can and they're both doing it lawfully according to the Administrative Procedures Act, which, by the way, that's what all magistrates have to follow. And all magistrates are the state courts. There's really no judges in state courts because all crimes are commercial, all crimes are administrative, all are private for-profit corporations. Therefore, every one of them is a magistrate. And if they're not, ask them, are you an Article 3 titled judge? Is this an Article 3 court? You won't find one in a state. See, knowing our enemy is so important. Acting and pretending to be government under the color of law is a fallacy. And that's what they're all doing because they're in a corporation as a subsidiary of. See, Dun & Bradstreet, White House Office Inc., go look it up, agent of service, Joe R. Biden Jr. Subsidiary corporations. Last time I looked, it was over 60,000 subsidiary corporations underneath that corporation. Well, that corporation is a subsidiary under the District of Columbia Corporation. I'm sorry, yeah, blew that right off, didn't I? So, it needs 2 drops of super glue to hold it on. So anyway, the reason I keep hammering on this is you got to know, have a picture in your mind who you're dealing with. And it's not who you think. It's not who you've been trained to deal with. Not who you've been taught. But every state is a corporation underneath the White House Office Inc. Every agency except about half of them. About half of them are under the United Nations, under the IMF. They're not even part of the White House Office Inc., which is Joe R. Biden, which is supposedly your president. See, it just gets worse. More scary all the time. Oh man, this concrete floor gets hard on you after a while. And I could use a chiropractor. Is there one in the room? No, I'm kidding. You've got to understand who you're dealing with. So now you got the states. Who's the subsidiaries under the state? Look up your state on Dun & Bradstreet. It'll tell you who the agent of service is. It's usually the Attorney General. Sometimes it's the governor, but it's usually the Attorney General. Look up the bottom corner and it'll tell you how many subsidiaries. We looked up the Oregon Judiciary, got his Dun & Bradstreet number. The state of Oregon Judiciary has a Dun & Bradstreet number. It's a private for-profit corporation, acting and pretending to be government under color of law. And they had 1,600 subsidiary corporations underneath it. Who were they? Clackamas County District Court, Marion County District Court, Deschutes County District Court was all private for-profit corporation with a separate Dun & Bradstreet number underneath it. It'd just be like if McDonald's owned Taco Bell. It wouldn't be any different. And we as people, it's been drummed in our mind that they're our leaders, they're our government, they're the ones that we got to go to for justice, they're the ones that are going to save us, the police. The police departments are private for-profit corporations. Your dog catcher is too. On and on and on and on and on. The average county has between 240 and 250 subsidiary corporations underneath it. The reason I tell you this over and over and over again is because you want to win a court case? I'm going to tell you a story about Jack. They run my Oregon City group. Good people. And they had been coming after them. Clackamas County has been coming after them for years. And they were going along losing and losing and losing and losing. You know why? Because a forest fire came through. And Jack lived in this little area, out in the country, surrounded by forest, with just a few homes out there. And he'd lived there all his life. His mom and dad lived next to them. There's another old man that lives just down the road. And a forest fire was coming through, and the fire department comes out and says, you guys better evacuate, because it's coming fast right towards you. Jack owns some little pieces of digger equipment, mini excavators and stuff, and decided he's not going to let it happen. And he gets his neighbors together, and they get out there and they start cutting fire lines. And they start cutting fire lines just outside the perimeter of the neighborhood on the National Forest property. It's not National Forest property, it's our property. And that's where that's a lesson they need to learn pretty fast. I've had that conversation with more than one already. And they worked through the night. The fire department come out and checked on them one more time to warn them all to get out, and saw how much they were accomplishing. And they said, you're not going to get it done in time. And they put sprinklers up on all the roofs of all the houses. The old man that was in the house, they took him and they put him, the fire department took him out, had an ambulance come get him, took him out and put him in an apartment to get him out of his house. Jack and his wife had been taking care of him. I tell you how close the fire got. While he was on it, he up while he was on it. He dove off, he grabbed another piece of equipment, and that piece of equipment lasted through the job, but it has no paint on one side. The paint melted off. They were wetting blankets in cold water and wrapping themselves in it and trying to drive this equipment through the smoke. And those neighbors saved every home. They're heroes. And thousands of acres burnt up around them, destroyed thousands of acres of Forest Service land and trees. And they came after Jack with fines for clearing brush and a fire line around that neighborhood. Criminal charges. He should have been in a freaking parade, in a parade car, paraded through town as the biggest hero in town. That's what should have happened. And they arrested him and put him in jail. Yeah, he should have got paid for it. They worked 40 hours straight without a break and without eating. 40 hours. They were climbing ladders, climbing up on roofs, putting sprinklers, turning water hoses on. Well, 2 of them were on equipment clearing the fire line. These neighbors were getting together and they saved everybody's house. Not one house caught fire. It was the only little green patch in thousands of acres as that fire went up the canyon. And not a word on TV about it. But here's my point. Clackamas County came after him. Even the dog catcher came after him. They tried to foreclose on his home. His home was in land patent. They started attacking him on the streets. When they drive their car into town to get groceries, they get stopped by the cops. They lived in that area his whole entire life, and he was in his 50s. He was born there, in the house next door to where he lives. Next door, his mom and dad in their 80s still lived there. And his mom and dad refused to leave during the fire. They were going to get it done or die trying. This is the kind of crap they do to Americans. And right now I'm about to cry. My blood is boiling inside. I'm starting to sweat. Somebody needs to go to war for these people. Now, fortunately, Jack's wife's pretty sharp, and she went to war. And she came down to Bend, Oregon to see me several times. We took a whole day, sat in a restaurant. We talked about stuff, and one day I go, quit it. Quit fighting the way you're fighting. You're fighting with facts. You're fighting with truth. You're trying to make them believe you did the right thing. You're trying to argue points, and you're trying to argue case law. Quit it. Let's fight a different way. And I taught her to look up the United States Corporation. This was before it was the White House office, and Trump was still in office. Look up the the United States Corporation. What's its Dun & Bradstreet number? And she's there. Oh, here it is. Oh, yeah. Private for-profit corporation. Agent of service at that time was Donald J. Trump. I said, look up the state of Oregon. Oh, there it is. There's her Dun & Bradstreet number. Let's just start piling it up. She had a little printer about this long, about this wide. It was a little Canon. She shoved one piece at a time in. Print. At the restaurant. Black Bear Diner. That was the name of the restaurant. Prints it off. I said, look up Clackamas County. Oh, Dun & Bradstreet number. Print it off. Who else is coming after you? Oh, wait, the courts. Let's look up the Oregon State Judiciary. She freaked out when she saw 1,600 subsidiary corporations. I said, look up the Clackamas County Courthouse. Look up the dog catcher, the police department. All these other people that are coming after you, the U.S. Forest Service. She just started piling paper. We had to take a break. We had to take a lunch break from the restaurant and run down to Staples and get another ream of paper. By the time she was done, she had everybody, including the treasurer of the county commissioners, all have corporations. All of them. I said, now you know that everything you're dealing with is no different than Taco Bell. I said, it's like if McDonald's hires Burger King to serve a warrant on Taco Bell. And she goes, and the light dawned on her head. And to watch it compute in her brain was fun to watch. You saw it on her face. You saw her face turn red. You saw her get mad and angry, and different emotions come through. And she goes, These guys aren't even government. See what I've been trying to tell you? She'd already been to one of my seminars. In fact, she put it on. She was a sponsor. And she wrote her documents accordingly, submitted all the exhibits, and they dropped all the charges on both of them. He had, by that time, they had built up 16 felony counts on him with 5 misdemeanors. She had something like 9. And they dropped it all. And I'm only telling you part of the story. But they dropped everything, and everything went away as soon as she proved that they weren't government at all, that they're acting under color law, and then she threatened to sue them under Title 18, Section 241 and 242, and Title 42, Section 241 and 242. 42 is civil, 18 is criminal. Learn to make the United States Code your friend. Now, just because I said that, I'm going to say this. When you sue them, I did teach her this too. Always sue civilly first under Title 42. And here's why. In the criminal code, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you under the court of law. You have the right to an attorney. The right to remain silent means the right to say nothing that will incriminate yourself or give them any information that will help them prosecute you. But when you sue civilly first under Title 42, you're entitled to full discovery in a civil lawsuit, and it gives you the opportunity to learn all the information you need to take them into criminal court that they would have denied you to have, and they didn't have to incriminate themselves in criminal if you would have went criminal first. Okay? That's a lesson to learn right there. So, why do I spend so much time talking about court stuff? How many people in the American State National Movement in this room has had problems with the court in one way or another? That's why I teach court stuff. Got to give that man back his binder. 7 cases going right now. He's got. Go ahead. If you demand a trial by jury, right? Yes. You'll never get one. You always get a jury trial, right? And it really. Yeah, well, once you get good, that's what happens. That's not a bad thing. Oh, we already have. Yeah, we already have. We'll put them on the stand here in a minute. We got everything we need. With a big branch, a little short rope. All right, that's okay. The 12 presumptions of court. How many people have not heard that? 12 presumptions of court, okay. Quick little story. I was on an airplane on my way to Switzerland to represent some sovereign nations in a deal that was supposed to be signed. And I was flying with a group of about 6 very well-dressed men with very, very expensive suits and very expensive shoes and very pretty briefcases. And they looked like they just came out of GQ magazine. And I found out just by observing and listening to them that they were World Bank attorneys for the World Bank. And we were both going there for the same reason. Only they were on the other side and I was on my side, and I'm dressed in tactical boots, tactical pants, and a tactical shirt. Just an olive green tactical shirt. Some of you may have seen it in my old videos, that same shirt. And we're going for the same reason. And it's a 9-hour flight. So I'm listening to them talk for 3 or 4 hours, and I couldn't help myself 1 minute longer. So I jump into the conversation. And I said, hey, it's obviously you guys are pretty well-paid attorneys. You're working for the World Bank. I said, would you answer a question for me? And it might sound kind of silly, but would you answer a question for me? They said, well, sure. I said, what is the law? Where did it come from? How did we arrive at this thing called law where a small group of men could put something down on paper and hold me, a man, accountable? And I shut up. And they looked at each other like, that is one question. Did you kick the connector? I know, I was just checking. Oh, yeah, here it is, Rob. You know, might want to tape those together. Lesson learned. Okay, got it back. So what is the law? Where did its origins come from? How do we arrive at this thing called law where a small group of men could put something down on paper and hold me, a man, accountable? My first time saying that was in a courtroom to a judge. I said, hold on a minute, Judge. He was just running over my friend. And I was just sitting there as support. I wasn't saying nothing. And I couldn't help myself. So I stood up and put my hand out like a school crossing guard stopping traffic. Hold on a minute, Judge. What is the law? What is its origins? Always ask yourself that question. If you're dealing with the ATF, ask yourself that question. What is its origins? Find out what something's origin. The FBI coming up to your house, find out their origins. That's how I know they don't have a corporate charter, congressional charter even exists. They don't have one. They have no authority. Zero. So I asked them this question. They look at each other because they had never heard that answer by anybody before. And they started to discuss, and I'm listening, waiting for an answer. They started to discuss that subject. And they came up with a lame-ass answer. None of them read the Bible. None of them. So I said, I'm just going to stop you guys right there. My understanding of the law comes from Genesis. What's Genesis? I actually had them say that. No, one guy piped up, the others knew, but he was the first one to answer. And he piped up and said, what's Genesis? I said, it's the first book in the Bible. And I said, in Genesis, God created all things, the whole universe. What does the word universe mean? Uni, that's one. Verse. He spoke it into existence in one verse. He spoke the whole universe into existence. And God created all things. That makes him the executor. And then he gave me man dominion. He told me to take dominion of the land, the air, and the water, and this is law. That's the origin of law. Genesis 1:26 through 28. It's right there. Not even very far in. He's setting up the trust. And I told him the land is common law to all mankind. It's property, equity, and rights. It all boils down to who holds superior title and who holds superior rights. It's all about title and rights. And the air is ecclesiastical or canon law, which is trust law, where to be a fiduciary is the highest form of law because you're holding something for the benefit of another, a beneficiary. And that's trust law, everything held in trust. And the water is admiralty or commerce, which is contract law, everything held in contract. So all of law can be boiled down very simply. It's something either held in title, held in trust, or held in contract by a man with standing on their superior rights. I said, and then the Bible goes into the who begat who and who begat who and who begat whom, and it's hard to read and get through, but it goes on forever. And that's the beneficiaries, and the Bible's a trust indenture, and they went, understand who these guys were, where they come from. Great big New York City law firm where they make millions of dollars a year. Each one of them had $5,000 worth of clothes on. I had $150 worth, and that included my boots, and they're $69 on sale because they're Army surplus. And one of them looks over at me and says, "Who the hell are you?" I said, "I'm nobody. My name is David Strait. I'm just from a mill town in Oregon. I'm a farm boy from a mill town in Oregon." And another one piped up and says, "No, really, who are you?" I said, "My name's David Lester Strait. You might see me on the internet a lot. I've been teaching the law. I'm not bar licensed. But Bill Barr just had me come teach a bunch of attorneys." They go, "Bill Barr, you're talking about the Secretary of the Department of Justice?" I said, "Yeah, him, that guy. I got a picture right here on my phone of flying with him on a private airplane with him and his secretary and me. Nice little Lear, government Lear jet he gets to go places in." And I showed him my picture on my phone. And he goes, "No, what? No." And the other one, he's on his phone looking me up. Hey, those government aircraft have good internet, even over the Atlantic. And he's looking me up. And that was before Vice News. Okay. Some of you know what that means. Okay. Vice News, they put you in a vice, try and don't let you talk about it, don't let you tell your side of the story. They just write bad things about you and throw it out there to millions of people. And anyway. So anyway, he goes, "You're the guy the Bar Association wants to shut down." And I go, "Who, me? What did I do to them?" They used to put a motto. See, I know my enemy, I learned my enemy, so I subscribed to the Bar Journal, and I had for about a decade. And they used to put a little motto in the bottom of the bar journal, a little line in there on a few pages that says what their motto is. Do you know what the Bar Association's motto is? It used to say, "No fact or truth shall be tried in court." And another one of them pipes up and he goes, "They're going to get you with syllogism." I had never heard that word in more than 50 years of life, syllogism, and I'd read a lot. I'd never heard that word before. And the others, you should have seen their heads. They looked at him like they were going to kill him for telling me that. Well, he gave away a secret. And I was smart enough to recognize that's what he did by their reaction. So I decided I got a few more hours on this flight. And they got good internet. I'm going to look up the word syllogism. This is important. This is how they get you. So I'm going to read it to you. Syllogism, S-Y-L-L-O-G, ism, I-S-M. It's a noun. I'm going to read it to you right out of the dictionary. An instance of a form of reasoning in which a conclusion is drawn, whether it's valid or not, from two given or assumed propositions or premises, each of which shares a conclusion. No, each of which shows the conclusion and shares a common or middle term not present in the conclusion. I skipped a line. I don't know why I did that. What the hell did I just say? This is his definition. An instance of a form of reasoning in which a conclusion is drawn, whether it's valid or not, from two given or assumed propositions or premises, each of which shares a term with a conclusion and shares a common or middle term not present in the conclusion. What the hell did I just say? Literally, I'm looking it up on my phone, and I had to read it 9 times. And I still didn't know. And I'm a pretty smart guy. I'd read a lot. I'd done a lot of things. Been in lots of courtrooms, helped lots of people, did all kinds of things by then. And I could not decipher in my brain what the hell that meant. So now I get back on the computer and I start doing Google searches, examples of syllogism. I went through about 5 or 6 just as confusing examples as what I just read in its definition, and then I found one that I understood. So I'm going to tell it to you. All dogs are animals. All dogs have 4 legs. Therefore, which means the conclusion, all animals have 4 legs. Well, that ain't true. That ain't true. So I said, all right, how's the court's going to twist shit to come up with crap that ain't true? No fact or truth shall be tried in court. Well, how the hell am I going to beat them now if they're coming after me? He told me they were going to shut me down with syllogism. So I had to find a whole new way to operate and beat them. Okay, if nothing else, this is like a comedy act right here, okay? Let me finish. It is deductive reasoning as distinct from induction. What the hell does that mean? Deductive reasoning as distinct from induction. This school of epistemology is highly advanced in syllogism and logical reasoning. Okay, right about there, I about busted a gut and rolled around on the floor. Logical? What is logical about anything I just read in the last 10 minutes? But what this did by looking this up, I thought to myself, well, I'm smart enough to know I got to go to canon law for this. So I started doing searches in canon law, and I came up with the 12 presumptions of court, canon law 3228. 3228. It says a Roman court. Did you know all of our civil courts are based on Roman law? Roman courts? All of them. That's our state courts. A Roman court does not operate according to any true rule of law. Oh, that hurt like somebody stuck a knife in me. All this time I've been in courtrooms trying to argue facts, and I've actually been a pretty good winner up to that point. And they don't operate according to the rule of law. Therefore, if presumptions presented by the private bar guild are not rebutted, they become fact and are therefore said to stand true or as truth in commerce. An unrebutted affidavit, it becomes truth in commerce. It's a maximum law. An unrebutted affidavit becomes truth in commerce. When we send our affidavits of repudiation to the Secretary of State and tell them why we don't want to be a member of that criminal organization, so we're jumping off the citizenship and declaring our status under Title 8, Section 1101A21 as a state national, those affidavits go unrebutted. Want me to say it again for you? Title 8, Section 1101A21. 23 also applies. And when we do that, we declare our status. We give them 21 days, 3 weeks to answer an affidavit. We're not in banking law, we're in affidavit law. Okay? 3 weeks. That's why lawyers post legal notices in the newspaper for 21 days. They do it under the pains and penalties of perjury as an affidavit. Okay? And we don't get a response back, then we have the opportunity, if we put our truth and facts down in an affidavit and a remedy is subverted from us and they don't answer, then we're allowed to endow it with credibility and put it on the public notice and record it. And when we record it, well, we can notice a judgment with it. And now we have a judgment against them recorded on the public notice that they did not respond to, and therefore we have created our remedy and have changed our status. And as soon as that cures on the record for 21 more days, well, then we can go get our passports and force the issue, because government has 180 days in which to change their records, and they do it on E-Verify, which is the Department of Homeland Security's. They do it in Lexus Nexus, and they do it in the NCIC. They're supposed to put every affidavit that goes in the State Department, somebody is supposed to get that affidavit and change all 3 databases to reflect your status. And they got 180 days to do that, and they've already passed their time and it's already been judgmented because they didn't answer and rebut. And it's already recorded, it's already on the public notice. Now we just take it down and go get our passport, which is our identification that proves our status.
So once you have that, you don't need 180 days.
That's right. Right here, just force them into putting it in the computer system. That's what it did, early. You can't force a low IQ bullet sponge with a gun on the side of the road at night to do what is right. You can only offer it. Tell him to go run it. But you can't change what he's going to do. The nicer you are, usually the better you come out. In my case, he just wanted to go see a bond at the jail, so he had to arrest somebody. Literally. There are 12 key presumptions that stand as truth that are asserted by the Private Bar Guild, which, if left unchallenged, will stand as true. That being public record, public service, public oath, immunity, summons, custody, court of guardians, court of trustees, the government as executor and beneficiary. I know you can't write this fast, don't worry about it. I'm going to cover them one by one. Executor dis on tort, incompetence, and guilt. These are all presumptions. When I first got started, my kids were taken. My mentor, a 23-year federal prosecutor, he told me that what the courts do is something called railroading. And I said, they're in the railroad business? What do you mean railroading? He said, the legal definition of the word railroading is to lead someone down a narrow path or rail to a predetermined outlook or conclusion. He taught me that in 1989, and I will never forget it. The legal definition of railroading is to lead someone down a narrow path or rail to a predetermined outlook or conclusion. Now you know why they have a 97% conviction rate. That's the national average, 97%. Predetermined outlook or conclusion. They lead you down a narrow path or rail. The path is presumption. Assumption. Tacit agreement. And hearsay. No truth or fact shall be tried in court. They presume all kinds of things, including your guilt or innocence. They make all kinds of assumptions. They get your tacit agreement or your consent to your status, your standing, your jurisdiction, and a million other things. I like to normally spell it like this. Tack it. Because they tack that consent right to your butt. Be nice. I used to say ass. They tack it to your ass agreement. That means you give your consent, your voluntary consent, to be ruled over. How did you do that? A million ways. General appearance. You appear generally and not specially. When you appear specially, you reserve all your God-given rights. Okay? You appear generally, not specially. How else do they do it? You open the door for a police officer. You talk to him. You let him in the house. You step out on the porch, close the door behind you. That's a tacit agreement that you're going to speak to them, and they know they can get a confession out of you. They put you in the back seat of the car. You know why they always put you in the back seat of the car and haul you downtown? Because they know most people will convict themselves on the ride to the car, and they're recording the whole thing, and your mouth runs. Most people incriminate themselves. If that didn't work, they put you in a little room, and that little room has cameras and microphones, and they'll make you sit there. And they'll come in, hey, you want something to drink? Keep you there for a long time sometimes, because they'll know you talk to yourself. And if that ain't enough, then they'll send somebody in there to talk to you, and by the end of the night, you've convicted yourself. You have the right to remain silent. Shut up. I got a friend that was just walking down the sidewalk. And the police stopped him, put the lights on, pulled him over. Literally, in a car next to the sidewalk. Pulled him over. I want to talk to you. What is your name? He goes, I don't answer questions. And I retain my Fifth Amendment right not to speak. And he shut up. And that pissed the cop off. Just that. Didn't take much. There was no threat. There was no nothing. He said it nicely. But these guys are used to getting answers. They ask the questions, you answer. They'll tell you that, right? I ask the questions, you answer. That's right. No, you work for me. Okay? I'll ask the questions, you answer. And we can play this game all day. But no, so my friend shut up. The guy didn't like it. He put him in handcuffs, set him on the ground for about 10 minutes. Kept trying to question him. He goes, so he picks him up off the ground. He puts him in the squad car all the way down to the police station. He's trying to ask him his name, ask him who he is, where does he live, where does he work, all kinds of things. My friend keep looking at him going, just like that. They put him in a little room. He sits there. They hand him something to drink. Drinks a little bottle of water. Guy comes in, starts questioning him. I don't answer questions. After about 4 hours, they let him go. He didn't say one thing that incriminated himself. He didn't tell him his name, his address, his phone number, nothing. Sometimes it's smart, if you're just going for a walk, don't take your wallet with you. Because they'll take your wallet and take your ID and ID you and charge you. And I'll tell you what, Minnesota, there's something wrong with that state. Can't put my finger on it, but over the last 5 years, I've had more people probably call me from Minnesota where the police are hassling people like crazy for nothing. It's ridiculous. In our county, people joke around in the restaurants about, they'll say, how long you lived here? in this county. They'll say, do you live here? And I say, yeah. They say, how long have you lived here? I said, about 1.5 years. Oh, he says, just wait. He says, come on vacation, leave on probation. That's their motto in this county. Yeah. Yeah. Come for a visit, leave a felon. I was talking to 3 guys at random in a restaurant, and they were joking with me like that. And they came up with about 5 or 6 puns about the county doing that. When I went to pick up my car from the impound lot, the guy that owns the towing company said he's been arrested 6 times in his life. Right there, he was born, raised there, been arrested 6 times for nothing. He says, I didn't do anything wrong. Nothing. And they've arrested him. That kind of shit's going to stop in that county. I guarantee it. And then they'll use hearsay to convict you. About 1 year ago, I put I think it was an Ed Sullivan show on my channel. Do you guys remember, anybody remember that? He was interviewing an attorney who was one of the most winning attorneys in the country. I think it was Ed Sullivan. That doesn't really matter who the hell it was. And he was, Johnny Carson? It probably was. You're probably right. It doesn't really matter. The point is this. He's interviewing this attorney. How do you win so many cases? How do you win so many cases? And he says, because everything is hearsay. Everything? What do you mean? He says, well, what is your name? And he says, Johnny Carson. Hearsay. Did you create that? Well, no, it's on my birth certificate. Did you write that? No. Did you register that yourself? No. Your mother did? He goes, I bet she didn't. Look at who registered it. She signed off on an form and gave him away. That's what Mama did. Gave her kid away without knowing about it. The ladies are laughing. So, and he just went on and on and on. Everything Johnny said, hearsay. That's hearsay, Your Honor. Hearsay, Your Honor. And Johnny's getting kind of like, well, what's the truth? He goes, nothing, unless you created it. I had another friend that went into a courtroom, and he had a pretty bad situation he was facing. There wasn't any victim to this crime, but as far as statutory law goes, it was pretty bad, and he could have went to jail for 5 or 6 years. And he went into court, and the judge says, what is your name? And he sits there, says nothing. The judge says, who are you? And he sits there and he says nothing. So the judge says, what are you called? And he says, thank you, Your Honor, for phrasing the question correctly. Since the day I was born, my mom and dad called me John Doe. I'm not going to give you his real name. John Doe. And he said his name. And Your Honor goes, okay, John Doe, writes the guy's name down. And he says, hold on there a minute, Your Honor. That's just hearsay. That's just what I've been told. I don't know if they were lying to me or not. And believe it or not, they dismissed the case. They had no one to charge. There's a maximum law that states you must know the name of a thing to sue a thing. Understand, those little things sometimes are quite brilliant, but they're also awfully funny, aren't they? They're fun. I've enjoyed you guys. How much time we got? 1 hour. Oh, cool. You want me to answer questions, or you want me to talk about anything else? Most of you watch videos, right? If you go to Rob's channel, there's a whole bunch of my videos. I'm going to try and talk him into start making them available, even the old ones. And he's going to be doing that, so that you can watch some of the older videos, because I never do something the same twice. It just ain't in me. For me, it would be the most boring thing on earth. It is. Stick with the admins and ask them, but there is ASN channels. Start with capital A, capital S, capital N, and then the name of your state. There's probably a channel for ASNs in your state where you can communicate with other people locally. There's ASN channels for just about everything, for MCOs, for land patents, for PMAs, there's more than 100 channels that our admins all run and do. Over 100 channels, and some individuals do. Join those channels. Start with Bobby's and mine till you learn and you're up to speed. Once you're up to speed, I want you to start getting your stuff done, getting all your stuff done, and then I want you to start recruiting other people and start teaching as much as you can. However you want to do that, that's up to you. You find your niche. If some of you hate your job, you want to quit your job and you want to be able to make a living helping people, we have a huge need, especially if you're good in the law, brother. There's no reason you're not making $250,000 a year helping people. Boy, do they need your help. You know how many people a day I get people crying? I have had to develop a very strong constitution to hear all the bad stories. All the bad stories. Belinda, are you still here? I think they might have had to drive home at lunch. Okay, yeah, they left at lunch. That girl I've known for they drove in from West Virginia. And I've known her and her husband for at least 4 or 5 years. And her child was taken from her from CPS. And if she was here and you asked her how many hours David Strait spent on the phone with her, absolutely free to help her out over a long, long period of time, 4 or 5 years, I have put hundreds of hours into that girl to help her. Never charged her a dime. In fact, I bought her dinner. Katie bought her a dinner too. So, understand we do that because we love people. And her situation was not a good one. And she didn't have any money. And I don't care if someone has no money. Some do, some don't. You help them all, and God rewards you accordingly. And the ones that have a lot of money, you don't even know they have a lot of money a lot of the time. You just do what you do for people, and sometimes they just throw an envelope of $5,000 down on your desk. And that's how I accept it, as a gift. And I'm not going to deny somebody God's gifts. Because if I did that, I'm doing them an injustice when they offer. So I don't deny gifts anymore. In the early years, I didn't know that. And I didn't know I was doing people a disservice by denying it. I read it in the Bible that it was a disservice, and I changed my thinking and my ways. Let them give what they want to give, and then use that money if you have extra to help others. Okay? That's what you do. You start living your life that way, and you go home tonight and you read Deuteronomy 28, the whole chapter, and it's a long one. That's your assignment when you leave my class. Read Deuteronomy 28. And if you just do this one thing that it tells you in Deuteronomy 28, I'm not going to tell you what it is, you'll be blessed in everything you do. And if you don't do this one thing, you will be cursed in everything you do. And I can remember when I was not blessed in my life. And when I read Deuteronomy 28, I changed to doing that one thing. And it changed my life. And I feel like I'm pretty blessed in everything I do now. Okay? It's up to you. Do it. All right, we want to go question and answers.
David, if it's time for Q&A, you think we can have people with questions to line up once again like they did yesterday?
Yep.
I'll bring some microphones.
Raise your hand. I want to make sure you leave here with your questions answered. It's important. That taco shirt's hilarious, by the way.
Okay, how are you supposed to sign your ASN passport?
Hold it this way.
In parse syntax or just in cursive?
Did everybody hear what he said? I didn't think so. You almost got to eat those kind of mics, man. No, it's all right. I can repeat it. He asked me how you sign your passport, Parsi syntax or just your signature. Honestly, I'll tell you like this. Parsi syntax grammar is a perfect language. It puts math to English. It's really good. It follows the styles manuals and everything else, and it's fine. But it's like a foreign language to most. Documents written in Parsi syntax go into the courtroom and they don't even know what it means. It's like if you walked into an English court and you spoke Swahili, they would not understand you. There lies the problem with Parsi syntax. It's not widely recognized by enough people. Not that it's not good. Dave Miller was my friend. I understand Parsi syntax. I write my name Parsi syntax sometimes. On your passport, I don't think it's that necessary. It's more important what jurisdiction you're in. A U.S. citizen needs to sign their passport in blue. They should do that so we can recognize them. A man who has not obtained their minor estate should sign it in red with their thumbprint. Mine's in purple with a gold seal and also my thumbprint, because I've claimed my minor estate. That makes me the king. Okay. That's the true way to do it. And then come get it stamped by somebody that has a stamp and have it signed. Get a couple of people to sign it. I'll tell you very quickly, one of the guys that's in the Republic of Texas who comes to our office and to the meetings, he was leaving to go home. He lives like 5 hours away in Texas. Texas is big, okay? You're not even going halfway across the state if you're only traveling 5 hours sometimes. So he gets stopped by the police in a little town called San Saba, Texas. And he hands the police officer, and now I've never been to San Saba, Texas. Well, I have now, but not before this happened. And it's actually quite a cute little town. Bonnie and I drove through it just a few weeks ago for the first time. And he hands the officer the passport, and the officer opened up his passport and saw the stamp with my signature. And he says, "We hate that guy." And he hands it back to him and tells him to be on his way. Small town cop in a place I've never been knew my name. That blows me away. Put Bobby Lawrence's on there too if you can get it, or Ann Vandersteel's. And watch what these guys do. They go on YouTube too, and BitChute and Rumble and all these other channels, and they watch. I've got a chief of police who's a state national who's training all of his officers, and he's in Houston. Yeah. Davis Smith. Okay, I shouldn't have said that on camera. Give his name away. Okay, go ahead.
King David, could you...
You talking to me or about my relative?
You, King David. Can you explain to us how April 1st is actually not Fool's Day, but the first day of the year?
April 1st is not
April
necessarily
1st.
the first day of the year, but it is Fool's Day.
Okay, could you explain that a little bit to us?
You know, I did this little God's calendar thing a few years back, and somebody took out of my entire 30-hour seminar, they took God's calendar portion and put it on TikTok. And it was the most shared of all my TikTok videos. In fact, TikTok said more than 2.5 million people watched that TikTok video of God's calendar. This drives people a little crazy, but I've actually got God's calendar on my iPad over there. We've been screwed for a long time with Satan. Satan came down to this earth, he was cast down here, and he just started causing havoc right away. We had the Julian calendar. Before that, we had the Hebrew calendar. After that, we had the Gregorian calendar. We have holidays on the Gregorian calendar, like Christmas and Easter. You got to be kidding. We celebrate Easter with bunny rabbits and eggs? That has nothing to do with Easter. What about All Hallows Day, Halloween? Almost every holiday on the Gregorian calendar is a pagan holiday. I don't celebrate any of them except Thanksgiving because I like to eat. The rest I could care less about. Christmas was a little fun when my kids were young, but now they're grown and gone. I don't celebrate Christmas. That's not even when Christ was born. He wasn't born in December. God's calendar is perfect. It's 13 months of 28 days with 1 day out of time. And in the Bible, it talks about 1 month at the end of March that is a 1-day month. And there's another month right in between June and July that's missing. And the first of this year, the 6,000th year since Adam on God's calendar, was April 6th this year. April 5th was the 1 day. It's 1 day out of time. You know what 1 day out of time means? It's 24 hours plus 1/4 of 1 day. The day out of time. That way there's never a leap year. Ever. A leap year every 4 years. It's really important to know how this works. Babies are born in the spring. The start of the year is the spring. The 1 month day out of time is the day we're supposed to celebrate winter being over, the last year being done, and the next year starting. And it's supposed to be a day that's split in half, and you fast for half the day and feast, and then feast. And your fast is to prepare yourself for the upcoming year, and your feast is to celebrate the year that left. And then April has 28 days. So if the first falls on a Monday, it's always going to fall on a Monday. A woman's cycle is 28 days. In nature, 28 is huge. The moon revolves on a 28-day cycle. And he created all the heavens and the earth and the moon and the sun. And he created it on a 28-day cycle. A true rose has 28 petals. An owl has 28 feathers down its wing. On and on and on and on throughout nature, God's calendar reveals itself. Okay?
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. Getting back to the IRS, when one dissolves their contract with the IRS, does the state income tax fall away?
Most states' income tax is based off your federal return. Ta-da! It's just an up and down. It ain't that difficult. Come on, girl.
Can you hear me now? There we
Yeah.
go. So to follow up from my other question earlier, I have another daughter who is already 8. She turned 8 in February. Can she still go and do the estate or minor estate, or is it too late?
Yes,
because
with
she's
your
already-
help.
Can you help us know how I do that with her?
You got to learn to do yours first and take her with you. Just take her under your wing. You're the protected mama eagle. Okay?
Okay.
Take her under your wing. From 8 to 18, she's under your care. She's 18, she's on her own. Kick her out of the house. Tell her to move 1,000 miles away so she can learn how to live her life. And then tell her it's okay to move back later, close to you.
I have one that's
3
almost
houses
18.
over.
Thank you.
Not next door.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
But can they?
Oh, can you hear me?
If you do that, that's perfect.
Oh, okay. I read an 87-page article titled Hidden History. Did you write that?
You wrote what?
I read a 87-page
Article? Entitled what?
I think it said Hidden History, Part 1. I thought it was you because I had a Oregon zip code in it, and I'm looking for Part 2.
Wow. No, actually, One of the guys out of Oregon in our Southern Oregon group wrote that.
Is there a part 2?
And of course, he learned a lot of that shit from me, but yeah, I didn't write it. Is there a part 2? I don't know if he's written part 2 yet.
Okay.
He wrote it quite a while ago.
Okay.
And I don't know if he ever got to part 2. So.
Good afternoon, David.
Hi.
Question about playing offense when you go to court. You got the ISLN numbers. That's an offensive tool. What are the best tactics to use that tool?
See, here's my problem. I don't fight the way other people fight. I just go full head on and expose all the corruption and how they get paid. And I do that, and they go, holy crap. And I show all their violations and the crimes they're committing. And I show that they have no immunity. And that I show that I can be nice and forgiving, but if they pursue, I'm going to be tough and unforgiving. And when I do it that way, they run like hell usually.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi. When it's all said and done, what would you consider adequate justice for the mistreatment that you and Bonnie have both faced?
I offered them a peace treaty. Peace treaty goes a little something like this. You wipe everything off the county records of every case that she's ever had in her entire life, and you never come after her again. And for that, I'll let you have some of that bond, but our restitution is we get the rest. And the rest is a minimum of half. And then we're going to tell you a little bit on how to spend your part of the money, like improve humanitarian things, like better food in the jails, a bed cot to sleep on, or at least a thicker mattress pad. Make it a little warmer in there, pay your goddamn heat bill. It's 60 in there. You're literally, and I'll tell you from my just short little period of time of experience, I was wearing canvas, tan and gray stripes. They didn't even look good on me. Felt like I was in sailcloth. And it's 60. It's cold in there. And the third or fourth, I think it was the fourth guy that came in, was an elderly man in a wheelchair with leukemia. So I put my blanket, he had his blanket around him like this, sitting in a wheelchair, freezing. He was thin. He had no meat on his bones. He was shivering. I could watch him. I put my blanket around him too. I can take the cold. He can't. Bonnie's father died in that same jail. He actually died in the hospital because they had to take him to the hospital for a traffic-related offense. He had pneumonia. He was on his way to the doctors. He was having a hard time breathing and coughing, and the car was doing this, and a police officer pulls him over, stops him, thinks he's drunk. Arrests him. Same county. He was a business owner. He owned the waste hauling business in that county. All the garbage trucks. And they put him in jail, and he was 68 years old. And he was sick with pneumonia. And he asked for another blanket, and they denied him. And he got sicker and sicker and sicker. And he kept complaining and complaining and complaining, asking for another blanket, asking for Tylenol, asking for an Advil, something. And they didn't help him until he couldn't breathe, and they take him to the hospital in shackles and chains, his prison suit. And he died that night in the hospital. Her own father, and she's in the same jail.
I have 2 questions.
Don't think I haven't thought about that. I got worse than that.
Okay, I have my certificate of live birth, and my name did not come in caps on here. Does that matter?
Not always
legit?
is. The states are making it hard to get your long form. You should have your long form if you can get it. The long form will almost always have your all caps name on it, but different states at different periods in our recent history, maybe the state you were born, which I don't know what that is, back when you were born, they may not have done it. That doesn't mean anything. I guarantee a lot of states won't even give you the long form anymore, and they changed your name on it. They don't want you to know. We've been teaching this enough that they don't want it. What was it yesterday that I said, and somebody was watching it, somebody screenshotted it, and then within a half an hour, they removed it from the site? Just because I said it yesterday. Well, I was up here. Yeah, the Deagle population reduction. Some people were pulling it up, and there it was. And some people pulled it up a little later, and no, it's not there anymore. It's because I talked about it. I've watched this happen over 30 years so many times about so many different things. The minute I say something, they're going to make it hard. So intent in the law is important. If you live in one of these states that won't give you the long form birth certificate, take the certified birth certificate that they will give you and use that. You can only make your best attempt, and that shows your intent. See? And intent is very important in the law.
I have a question with the marriage license. What if your spouse is deceased?
You still need to annul the darn marriage. Put it in the Bible and go record it.
I can put it in the Bible.
You got friends and family that knew when you got married, probably. Get them to witness it in the Bible. Write it down. Write the original date down and get them to witness it. And go record it.
Great. Thank you.
He'll probably appreciate it if he's up there. If he's down there, it doesn't matter anyway. Gotcha, huh?
David, I've got a tax question. I have a corporation, I have an LLC, and then we had not paid our taxes, our personal taxes. So I had my accountant do my LLC taxes, and I have a commercial loan, and my banker sent me an email, said, I need your tax returns. So I sent him the corporate tax returns. And now he's saying, I need your personal tax returns. But I don't have personal tax returns now. This is the first year that I have not filed my personal tax.
Just tell him I didn't have to file this year. I was exempt. You can't provide what you don't have, right?
That's right. Okay, I do have one other question, and it has to do with the minor estate. And you had mentioned the other day that there's about 20 or 48 some hours of training before we can go get our minor estate.
Well, yeah, if you want to make sure that you're not going to have a problem getting it and you know the language.
Can you Can you talk a little bit about what we should be studying to prepare for that?
Everything I said here and the 20 maximums of equity, that'll help teach you a little of the language difference, okay? And we're gonna teach some of that, but it has to be taught in private. We can't have these cameras and put it on the internet. Nobody will be able to use their phones and record. Nobody will be able to take video. It's got to be done in private. If you do this in private under a non-disclosure and you start putting it in the public, they can recall it all. And you think you got a tax problem. Wait until that happens.
Very good, thanks.
Yes, that's right. That's right. He said the Office of Risk Management sent him an email telling him that if you do that, you could be charged with treason. You can't mix public and private.
David, first off, it has been a true honor to have you here in our hangar.
Yeah, I love this hangar.
And I want to thank Kimberly for setting this up.
Absolutely. Me too. Thank you. What's that? You had a hand in it.
Okay, so I just want to clarify 3 things. First, back to the IRS question. If you have filed but have not paid, can you refile so that you don't commit perjury?
Yes, it's called an amended return.
Yeah, okay, perfect.
1040X.
Okay, second, what was the name of the asteroid we're tracking?
What's the name of the?
The name of the
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
What was it called? We looked it up last night.
I don't want to say that. Go on NASA's website.
We did.
Did you find it?
No.
It was there a couple of days ago.
Probably took it down.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll find it.
Last question. Difference between the U.S. Code and the Code of Federal Regulations? Because you've referenced both.
The Code of Federal Regulations is how government acts against their employees. They consider you an employee by your claim to be a citizen, person, resident, and so on, a taxpayer, a voter. All those things make you a federal employee. The use of your zip code, things like that, all make you a federal employee. And the Code of Federal Regulations is an employee manual, like at a corporation. That's what it is. The United States Code was designed based upon the Bible and our 4 founding documents, how we are to hold our public servants accountable. That's the difference. Government holding their employees accountable, and how we're supposed to hold our public servants accountable. Now, also, because we are a citizen, person, resident, taxpayer, voter, they can use the USC against us too. They can't use against me, but they can use against U.S. citizens. Anyone making those claims, citizen, person, resident, and so on. Now they can use it against you and include you as a government employee. So they can use either code against you. Did it go dead? Hey, Rob? Mike just went dead. Try it now.
There we go.
Okay.
So know them both, is what you're saying.
You know, it's helpful. Start with the U.S. Code.
Okay.
Because our job out here as people is to hold our public service accountable.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I'm not saying you guys got to become lawyers. A lawyer is a law sayer. I'm like a lawyer. I'm a law sayer, but I'm not a bar licensed. No, I just did. Oh, all right. You filed a public tort claim through the Public Tort Risk Management. What this means is you have crossed a private administrative CAFE. Oh yeah, I don't do that. I don't teach that. You don't use that terminology. You do, you could get in trouble. Into the Public Tort Claim Department. I bring this to your attention because you cannot mix public and private ever. Something to learn when you go talk about equity. Can't bring up a case law. You can't bring up statutes. You can't, okay? Management may not agree with what you have done because you do not have a court order to back up your claims. Thanks, Tort Division. Michigan Tort Risk Management.
Check, check. A trick question. Did you happen to still have that piece of paper I gave to you?
Which one?
Yes.
I don't remember.
It was about a podcast that that your name comes up on quite often. Okay, so I'll read you the question.
Okay.
It's a podcast, so they do a Q&A, and it says, why do you consider, caller asks, why do you consider ASN a dangerous path? And his answer was, the path is like giving up. An ASN claim is giving up their citizenship. They claim to be giving up your citizenship. Isn't that what they are claiming to do? You could be deported. You're already on record with a fingerprint on record as common law. That's a lie, quote unquote. And it was established in the 1800s by the American Indians using ink as proof as a signature or something is not common law. It's a BS thing. So there you go.
Okay. Sometimes I'm just in a zoo feeding peanuts. Every time Bonnie and I read one of those comments that are similar to that, we look at each other and so we just say, that guy's just a squirrel in our world gathering nuts. Because his intelligence level just ain't up to par. And his amount of studying just ain't gonna cut it. Let me tell you something. I've been doing this 35 years. I've been in more than 2,000 courtrooms. I've got attorneys, judges, and police officers who are state nationals. I've got US senators and congressmen, and I've got a Supreme Court retired justice helping us. I've been vetted by everybody on the face of the planet, and I am still here despite the naysayers and the Vice News idiots. They would have arrested me a long time ago for something a hell of a lot more serious, but I refuse to teach anything out of the FBI police training manual on sovereign citizens. We don't do that shit. Everything I teach you is backed up by law. I give you the laws, the codes, a whole book full of information, and we still come up with idiot questions like that. We've got 150 million people following us worldwide, and those numbers are going up fast. We've got more than 20 25 million now state nationals in the United States. We hit 25 million. And that's because they can't count fast enough, because they've already told us over 500,000 a week are getting their passports. And now they're starting to, we're causing such a stir that the Democrats in Washington, D.C. are starting to throw out misinformation, where before they were just telling us and it was fine and we were going along. And those numbers even blow me away, to be honest with you. I have worked so hard for so long. It's almost hard for me to believe that it's caught on like that, except for the fact that when I go to a restaurant in a state that I don't get to very often, and I get recognized when I walk in by name, then people know this is happening out there and stuff is going on. And when I get recognized in almost every airport I go in, a guy walked up to Katie in DFW and says, "Is that David Straight, David Lester Straight that you're with?" I'm telling you, whether they believe us or not, I don't care. Everybody's got the right of self-determination. I don't care about their political status. I don't care if they were a Democrat last week. The fact of the matter is people are starting to know. Just like with a police officer that stopped a guy in a city I've never been in and said, "We hate that guy." That means he's seen more than one or two passports with my signature on it in a small town up in the hill country of Texas. Vet me some more. Bobby Lawrence looked at a chief of police in Cleburne the other day, and after talking to him and teaching him the law for about an hour in the hallway, he says, "Here's what I want you to do." And he's pointing at the chief of police's chest, and Bobby's a big guy with a big booming voice, and I'm thinking, he can shoot you. And he says, "Here's what I want you to do. I want you to thoroughly investigate this man right here, and especially his political status." And the very next day, my arrest, my tickets, even the ticket a year ago that I went to court for and schooled the judge and beat, is nowhere to be found on the public record. That's how I know this is the right thing to do, because I've studied the hell out of it. And when they can combat that, great, but they can't. And that's how I feel about it. Go ahead.
Two questions. First, monies that have been distributed from an IRA, your 401ks and that, are they considered income under the tax code?
The interest earned, the growth is, yes, most of the time. But here's the problem. Take your 401k, the whole damn thing, and roll it into a precious metal program like 7K metals. I don't care if you do it with 7K or if you do it with somebody else. Now, I like 7K better than most of the other companies out there, but there's gold companies out there that are reputable. There's 7K that's reputable. Take and roll it over into precious metals and you can use the Sound Money wallet and the new credit card that they're coming out with, and you'll be able to access your 401k with a piece of plastic in your pocket with no tax, because silver and gold aren't taxable because they're real money. You know, thank you very much. Is that the only question you have?
No.
Shit.
You mentioned a lot about trust. What type of trust? Irrevocable trust?
Okay, a lot of that shit attorneys make up. I use a God trust for my family, okay? I have a Cesta QV trust, and I have a God trust, and that's all the trusts I need. Okay, I'm going to cover one thing real quick. Hold your thought, okay? Real estate contracts put out by the Real Estate Association have a cute little box around it. And then they have the contracts, real estate contract. I'll tell you how smart my wife is. She learned about real money and stuff long before she met me versus fiat currency. And she had a client of hers as a real estate agent that was buying a $7 million home on the lake. And my wife took a little bit of whiteout and she erased the corners. She made a photocopy of it and then she filled it out. And she added silver in the deal. And she wrote the contract, her buyer's contract, got it accepted by the seller for the silver, because the guy wanted all the furniture in the house too. Everything but their personal items. And that way, that's a good idea, because then the guy has plenty of money to go buy new furniture and he doesn't have to move as much. And then when your house is that big, that's a lot of semi-loads of stuff to move that you don't want to move. And it's usually quality furniture, so it's really heavy. She about broke my back buying one piece one day. Mine and two other guys. Yeah, the three of us didn't think we could get that in the back of the truck. Big chunk of furniture, my gosh. Anyway, she likes to do that stuff. Estate sales is her hobby. Anyway, she does this, puts some silver in the deal, gets it signed by both the buyer and the seller and submits it to escrow, and it's going to close within 30 days. It's a cash deal. Close within 30 days. The seller's bank wanted her to take the silver out of the deal. The county called her, wanted her to take the silver out of the deal. The escrow company called and wanted her to take the silver out of the deal. And she said, no, both the buyer and the seller have already agreed, and you can't interfere in the obligation of contracts. Close the deal. This is after the buyer took the money down to escrow, dropped it off. And the bank didn't even want to take the silver as a deposit at the escrow company. Complained. And Bonnie forced him into it with Title 15 of the United States Code. And they closed on the house. And the sellers moved out and the buyers moved in. And the county sent the buyers a letter saying property taxes are zero. We allodial titled it right off the bat. Did it with a warranty deed and got it done right off the bat. And because there was a little silver in the transaction, no taxes could be charged on a $7 million house. You know how much the county lost? About $100,000 a year. One transaction. Brilliance. That's why I married her. Big, blonde, beautiful brain. Because anything in box is not part of the contract. Now she just made it a contract. That's why attorneys write forms with lines and boxes all over it. A judge one time, I watched him do this. A legal document came in, multiple page document. There were lines margin to margin, margin to margin. It was titled page 1 of 4, page 2 of 4. I watched the judge take a pen and go like this. Do you know why? Because there was no page number here and they put a line all the way across, so that doesn't count. That's a blank page in between the pages. English styles matter. English styles matter. Okay. What's that? No, you always use page numbers. Don't put a line margin to margin. The only place you can do that is down at the footer to separate the page from the footer. And then the page number goes there, above that line. Go ahead.
I just have one question. When I started this process, I found out maybe 2 months ago that I actually can file for dual citizenship because my grandfather's from Italy. He never naturalized here in the United States. So I'm obviously want to naturalize, be a U.S. national in the United States here, but can I do that in Italy as well?
It's a United Nations nation. I actually tried to say something, my voice didn't come out. Anyway, that was weird. It's a United Nations nation.
So I can.
It doesn't matter. Do you understand that everything I'm teaching, everything, applies in other countries? We are the military arm of the world. We are the pillar, the Washington Monument, the obelisk, the military arm of the world. England is the banking arm. The Vatican owns all living souls and all dead ones. Not anymore, but they did. See, you've got to understand. You've got to understand how this world's set up, and it ain't how you think. That's why we're in 1775 under the UCMJ, under the Grand Army of the Republic, over its Commander-in-Chief, George Washington, who then became the President of the United States. Don't tell me the people voted for him. He wasn't going to give up his throne. And he was a British soldier first. Okay. England kind of won everything, even Washington, D.C. Every 6 square miles in the United States, there's a crown pin. The Department of Justice, every attorney general in every state is put into place to protect and uphold the interests of the crown. And they use treaties by the Bar Association to do their dirty work because they're the banking arm. And the attorneys are the soldiers for the bankers. They do all the paperwork. And they fight with a pen as their bullets. A pen and a stamp as their bullets. All courts are banks, all courts are post offices, all judges are bankers, all judges are postmasters. When you do a legal document, never leave the backside blank. I've watched judges take an entire document, turn it over, flip through it, and say, I don't see that here. So in the early days, I used to write this page intentionally left blank, turn over. Thought if I left them some instruction, they'd figure it out. And then I quit doing that. I started putting scripture on the back page. Then I watched some of their reactions, and it was like holy water on a vampire. So that led me to having some fun with them, and I'd mail them a little box of wooden stakes from the post office in a town 3 counties away, anonymously, without any fingerprints on it, and some silver bullets in another box the next day, and some garlic on a string, and some little wooden crosses. And I'd just do that and send it to them, and then I'd go to court, and I'd say, Your Honor, did you get my bullet points? Let's put a stake in the heart of this matter today. I don't recommend that now. They're getting rough on people. But back then, they'd laugh about it. They'd say, did you send that? I'd say, that's hearsay, Your Honor. Got any proof? I used to be a little more of a smartass back then. Okay. But if you're careful, you can have fun with some of them. All right. Where are we at now? Quitting time? Hey, it's past quitting time. Guys, I just want to say something. What? Fruit from a poisonous tree? I know. I did. Mel sent that to me to review and asked me to write a preface. And I said, I don't think it's complete. He didn't talk about status. And he goes, what do you mean? He was a bankruptcy attorney. And so I sent him my affidavit of repudiation. And he made it his, and he put it in chapter 2, I think, right? Yeah, I read that book a long time ago. Yeah. All right, guys. I just want to say thank you so much for being here and driving as far as a lot of you did and flying in or whatever you had to do to get here, sitting in those hard chairs for 3 days straight and putting up with me and my voice and my wife on the phone. She is wonderful, isn't she? I want to say thank you to all the vendors and Rob and Neil for the sound and putting it on, and our hosts for this beautiful aircraft hangar, and I might put that in my pocket, take it home with me. But no, I'm kidding. But I just want to thank you all so much. I love you.
And now we get to do the drawing.
The drawing.
So, could all my vendor pals come up front with me? We just want to say thank you. We always like to do this at the end of our events because we appreciate each and every one of you all for being here, not only for supporting David, but also for supporting us. And we're just thrilled that we can help you on this ASN journey. And I would just personally like to say, for those of you that have been here for the first time, I know you might be a little bit overwhelmed, but don't let that affect how you let your feet move, because the faster you get your AOR done, the sooner you're gonna be a free man or woman, okay? So don't be overwhelmed, work on your AOR, and we want to see you be free. Okay, so I'm going to start with this guy over here. This is Mr. Tony, MCO Tony. He's a great guy, and so I'm going to let him explain what he's given away.
Okay, we are going to give 2 right to travel manuals away worth $100, and then 1 MCO worth $500. I'll let Katie pick. You pull it and I'll call it. Okay, Chris Monlock, is that how you pronounce that? Right on. Make sure you're rated, okay? Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah. Okay.
One other one, Katie.
Linda Marie, come on down. There you are, dear. Thank you. Okay, for the MCO, Mark Blackaby, come on down. Just come see me at the booth and we'll take care of you, okay? Thank you.
Cool. Now, Katie's going to give away her stuff, and Tony's going to help her.
Okay, I will give away 3 things. The first person can grab anything from the ASN clothing t-shirt table, whether it's a t-shirt or a flag. The second thing I'll give away is a Freedom Bundle. And the third thing I'll give away is a trademark.
So this is for the t-shirt?
Yeah. Okay, this is for ASN Clothing, Rachel Rogers.
All right, Rachel.
This is for a Freedom Bundle, Ellen Klein. Ellen Klein?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Okay, for a trademark, Bigini. Bigini? Yeah, there you go. Okay, awesome. Here is Gianna with State National University and David Straight's book.
Hello, I'm out of books, but if you come see me, I will take your address. I'm going to give away 2 books. Who do we have, Tony? Paul Pendergrass. Come to the back table. Go ahead, Tony, you have the lucky hands. And Mary Purdy. All right.
Okay, we're going to go right over here to Marcella.
Okay, well, first we had an anonymous donor. So we're going to raffle off a stack of silver. Looks like it's 7 ounces. So let's do that. Steve Robbins.
That was donated by somebody in the class.
Yep. I did say that, right? Why did you draw a name over there? All right, congratulations. Yeah. So to hear. Okay, and next I'm going to raffle off a genuine leather warrior bracelet. This is a souvenir bracelet. It is embossed. It says "Straight Out of Babylon." I've been wearing mine all day. They're very comfortable. But the reason that we made these was just it's kind of a conversational starter for one to kind of talk about the movement, and then also, Straight, David Straight, so it's kind of his souvenir. But also it's a warrior band just to remind us that we are at war as the righteous patriots in this battle. It's a spiritual battle. So anyhow, so we're going to raffle one of those off. Okay, Gabe. Just says Gabe. Come on down, Gabe. Okay, and then I'm also going to do a 7K Metals standard membership valued at $199. John Wright. All right, John, so come and see me in the back and we'll get you enrolled when we're done here. And then the last thing, I'm going to do a $500 discount off of a PMA. So that's the Private Membership Association for the business owner. So because not everybody's a business owner, you can gift this to someone else if you win. Donald Hudock. All right, thank you.
And now it's David's turn.
Okay. So what I have is one piece of land patented property, 9 square feet in Texas. Also a membership of the PMA that goes along with the future planned RV resort for a total value of priceless. All right? All right. Stephanie Combs. All right, Stephanie. Stephanie just purchased one today, so you can gift it to anyone you want or have a second. All right.
Okay, and last but not least is Life Armor Labs, which is me and Spencer here. I'm going to be giving away some of our chocolate-covered coffee beans. These are really good for those of you that love coffee. So it's got our tech in it. And we're going to also be giving away one of our hats, okay, that has 2 cells in it. So this is what we're going to do today. And then we're going to do a couple of those. And then I'm going to give away a bottle of spray, which is really handy to have, okay? So I'll just pull this out of here. You hold that. Annie Hofty for a, all right. Okay, so that's that one. And then what else we got in here? So for another, Lori Boyd. Where are you, Lori? All right. We're going to do the hat next. Enjoy. Okay, so let's see. Who's going to get this lucky hat? This is a very special hat. Chuck Thompson. And you bought a hat.
Yeah.
That's so cool. There you go. And then for the bottle of spray, it goes to John Nix. Where's John? Okay, awesome. Again, thank you all for coming. We'd love to see you in Dallas for our ASN convention. You can find out more information on statenational.us to come to the convention, but we'd love to see all of you all there. Have a great evening and a safe journey home.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if any of you gentlemen would like to stick around for a moment and help with the taking down of the tables, would be wonderful if you had a few minutes to spare. And on that note, if you do, we would ask that you would be very cautious of the tape and cords in the floor. And I will help start with that process. So we got any volunteers?